and call this meeting. Great, thank you. So I'm going to call the meeting to order. Scott, if you could, our regular counsel did take vacation. I think he's not available, but his partner, Scott, is here. So Scott, if you could do us a favor and read the open public meetings notice and do roll call, please.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hereby announce that pursuant to Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, that adequate notice of this meeting has provided in the notice, which was sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Two River Times, and posted on the bulletin board in the Township Hall and filed with the Township Clerk's office. This time I would do a roll call. Chairman Kinji.
Here.
Vice Chairman William Castning.
Here.
Commissioner Janet Burke.
Here.
Commissioner Gerald Buffalino.
Here.
Commissioner C. Zachary Gilstein.
Here.
All present, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. So we have a quorum. If you could please all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and then remain standing for a moment of silence to honor our troops, both here and abroad, that work tirelessly to protect us each and every day. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. So our first order of business is can I get a entertain nomination to retain Bonnie Thomas as an independent contractor to act as secretary for the primary duty to draft notes and do whatever clerical duty that will be required?
Move. Second.
A second, great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that resolution to retain Bonnie Thomas is passed. So without much ado, I apologize for the glitches and everything we have. So I'm going to do a quick intro. Last week, we began phase 1 of our work, which is to study our current form of government. I think we had a really good start with a informative and constructive discussion by 2 former mayors, one Republican, one Democrat, from 2 towns that are governed under the Township Committee form of government. And tonight we have a really star-filled agenda and speakers. We have 2 former mayors as well, a former deputy mayor and a current Homedale Township administrator. For the benefit of all the invited guests and anyone who's new to our meetings, our format is to ask a series of questions about the Township Committee form of government. After the response to each question, commissioners will have the opportunity for follow-up questions before we move on to the next question. Our first guest is Sharon Roundtree, who is Homedale's Township Administrator. I should note that since the administrator is not a current or former elected official, the questions that we will ask of her are different than the question we ask of the elected officials. I will now turn it over to Commissioner Janet Burke to introduce Administrator Roundtree and to ask her the set of questions. Welcome, Sharon.
Thank you. Okay, so Ms. Roundtree came to Homedale in 2019 with a wealth of administrative and policymaking experience. Prior to coming to Homedale, she served as Eatontown's Borough Administrator, where she was involved in the redevelopment efforts for Monmouth Mall and Fort Monmouth. She also served as the business administrator for Rahway, New Jersey, and worked in Union County as Director of Division of Intergovernmental Policy and Planning and as Deputy Director of the Department of Parks and Community Renewal. Roundtree was employed for 11 years by the Borough of Roselle as Director of Economic Development Program / Urban Enterprise Zone Coordinator. Along with fulfilling her duties for Homedale, Ms. Roundtree currently works part-time as Executive Director for Red Bank's Redevelopment Agency. She earned a bachelor's degree in political science and psychology from Rutgers University and a master's of public administration from New York University, Wagner School of Public Service. So welcome and thank you. I just have a few questions that I'd like to ask you. So could you please describe your current or past role and other experiences in local government or administration? I touched on what they were, but if you could describe them, please.
Sure. Before we jump in, I'm getting a notice that this meeting has a limited amount of time. In the future, make sure our office will schedule all of these. I'm trying to figure out if there's a way that I can get this without it ending. So bear with me a second because I haven't.
You want, man?
I just don't, you know what? I'll play around with it. Do you want to go with somebody
No,
else?
that's his telephone number. What are you looking for, Vinny? Here it is. And the meeting ID in the past.
Sharon, can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah, I see a time where it says that we only have 8 minutes left.
Exactly. So I'm going to try to figure out if there's a way I can extend this, even if I personally will pay for it, but it's going to take me a second. So if you want to jump to the next guest and come back to me, or just give me a minute to figure out how to extend this time.
Okay, so this is Ken. I don't mind jumping to the next guest. I am concerned about the time limit. So why don't we take, I don't want to put too much undue pressure because I don't want to do is start a guest speaker and then find that we have 7 minutes. I would rather we make sure we reschedule. We have to do that. I apologize again to everybody. This is my fault for trying to schedule this thing even though it's through the Homedale Zoom account. Clearly there were some things that should have been checked off differently. So I thought the Zoom, is that different than the Pro account, I guess?
It's,
Yeah,
I mean,
just
it's complicated. I could explain if anybody wants to.
no,
know
that's
the inner
not. Let's
workings
just
of
why don't we
Zoom.
just have you see if you could make sure that we don't end in 6 minutes or whatever it is, because
Yeah.
that's a problem.
I'm
Yeah.
doing my best to figure that out. I think I might have to.
You want to try to get hold of whoever you need to get hold of?
Trying to get a hold of Zoom right now is not going to work for us. Like I said, I'll figure it out, move on to the next speaker. I can't do both at the same time. So move on to the next speaker. I will figure out a way to extend this.
Okay, why don't we do that? So again, our apologies. So Mayor Hines, you're our next speaker. I know you're on mute, but you can hear us. Just be aware that, again, with all the technical glitches, I apologize, but we're gonna turn to you, and we're gonna turn over to Commissioner Zach Gilstein, who will introduce you and then ask a set of questions. Commissioner Gilstein.
Thank you. Welcome, Eric Hines. Eric Hines is a senior resident director for Merrill Lynch in Summit, New Jersey. He's the founding member of the Hines Curley Group, which manages over $1.5 billion. Eric served on the Homedale Township Committee from 2011 to 2019, and in 2012, he was voted the Public Servant of the Year by the Journal. During his tenure, he served as deputy mayor for 4 years and as mayor for 3 years. One of Eric's critical initiatives was the opening of Bell Works. Really cool. And you might mute everybody who's not necessary to talk. One of Eric's critical initiatives was the opening of Bell Works, a relaunch of Homedale's largest rateable after Lucinda Alcatel's departure. As mayor, Eric was instrumental in helping market and personally attract lessees to Bell Works, starting with Ice Sims. While mayor, Eric reserved 2 properties for the first time in nearly a decade, fought hard to increase the number of volunteer firefighters, and began the process leading to the building of a new firehouse. Eric initiated a monthly newsletter to inform the residents of important local matters. In 2017, Eric facilitated an extensive process that led to Homedale getting a AAA bond rating, only the 2nd town in the county achieving this. While on the township committee, Eric continued to coach HYAA, travel soccer, and volunteer as an assistant with the highly successful boys soccer team at the high school. Having the children's best interest in mind, Eric created events like Daddy-Daughter Sleep Out and hangouts for the teenagers. Eric is founding member of Hope for Children, where he has served as president since 2003. The organization has raised over $3 million for needy families here in Monmouth County. So welcome, Eric.
Thank you.
So-
Good to be here.
Great. So we're happy to have you. So I've just given a lot of description of what you've done. If you want to add anything about your past role and other experiences in local government administration, we welcome your words here.
It was a wonderful learning experience. A lot of good thoughts when I think back, and you touched on a number of the accomplishments. And I'm a 20-year resident, 22-year resident now of Homedale. Happily married to my wife Karen, 3 beautiful children. Eric at Notre Dame and Connor at Villanova, and my daughter is a sophomore here at Homedale High School. So that's Eric Hines in a bundle.
Okay, great. Okay, moving on. So Homedale operates under the Township Committee form of local government. What do you think works best in the Township Committee form of government?
Well, I think it's helpful that you have 5 equally weighted elected officials, not one greater than the other, so that you're forced to have majority rule to get things done. If it's significant, you need a super majority, like a bond ordinance or so forth. That's probably the biggest positive.
What could be improved in the way our current Township Committee form of government works?
I'm sorry, Commissioner Gilstein.
Oh,
can I
oh
just-
yes. Let me just see if others have any further questions or about the question about what's
Yeah.
best in our local form of government.
I didn't have any question, but I want to make sure no one else had any follow-up question to that as well.
Okay. All right, seeing none. What could be improved in the way our current Township Committee form of government works?
It's a good question. So when I was heavily involved, I felt that one of the best experiences we had for not only the heads of the department, but the elected officials and really the community was the workshops. And I don't know how it's a full day, so it's a lot to ask to do something like that, monthly, even quarterly, but I definitely think it warrants it more than once a year. Unfortunately, you get an agenda. Sometimes the public, for good reason, is not heavily attended unless, of course, there's something controversial. So I think a workshop 2 to 4 times a year, and to make a bigger deal of it, where you have some of the employees and just more interaction is incredibly positive. You might not need a change of structural government there, but I do think that's really incredibly positive. The second piece I would say is that in the current form, it might be beneficial to limit the current mayor to 2 terms, so that since in theory you're supposed to rotate, that to avoid any sort of controversy, if it was well known ahead of time, you can be mayor up to 2 years and then you rotate, therefore kind of always evening out the power.
Okay, very good. Any of the other commissioners have any follow-up?
So I assume you meant 2 consecutive terms.
That's correct, Bill.
Okay, thanks.
Anything further? All right, the next question. Under the